Good evening, everybody. This is Ken Boone with Whiskey Wednesday Weekly. This week, my guest is I guess an amateur comedian, right?
Yeah.
And it's Rafael DeCamargo.
Yep.
Okay. Originally from Brazil, born in
right.
Brazil. And we'll get into a little bit about his story. But first of all, I just want to take everybody a second to thank everybody. If you could please just subscribe, like, comment, share the videos. I know his story is going to be amazing. Every week we have different, aspects. I've never had a comedian. I've never had, these different people I've had.
Yeah.
I've never had a bourbon maker except Tyler.
Yeah.
Never had a musician except Tyler. I've had all kinds of different people. So until I start duplicating, these interviews, everyone's got a story. Everyone's got different. It's amazing how many people you meet in different aspects.
Sure. That's how I ended up meeting you.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll get into a little bit, and I'm going to call him Rafa. Is that all right?
That's perfect.
Yeah, that's kind of what he goes by, I believe.
Yep.
And so we'll hit on that a little bit. So we're going to start off with a quick shot to kind of warm everything up here and kind of go from there. But we'll start off with something a little easier. We'll start off with a little slow and low. Have you ever had slow and low?
No.
Okay, so slow and low is like a rock and rye. So have you ever had old fashioned?
Sure. Absolutely.
So you're going to get a lot of hints of that, okay? So this is an extremely great whiskey because it kind of comes already with the orange bitters and the rock candy rock candy in there. So you're going to really enjoy this. But it'll kind of get us flowing a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Cheers.
Cheers, man.
Here we go, Rock.
Yeah. Tastes exactly like an old fashioned.
Yeah, except it's warm, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's no ice.
Which again, I like to do a little bit here. So we're in Rafa's apartment, and so might be some background noise every once in a while, but it's all good. We're thankful he's able to give us this place. So we're gonna get right into your story.
Sure.
So you were born in Brazil.
Yep.
I think you mentioned you moved out here when you were 5.
I was 4. Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
Okay. But
When
you
I
were
moved
able
out.
to be an American citizen or get your green card at an early age, correct?
Yeah. My mom ended up getting married, and she was married for a while, so we were able to get our green cards quicker than most people, who just kind of come over here with a visa.
Okay.
And then now I'm in the process of getting my citizenship as we speak.
Okay.
I've been in the active process of that for
Okay.
about 2 years.
All right. Now your mom is Brazilian?
Yep.
Okay.
She stayed there till 24. She was an exchange student in Texas when she was 18. So that was kind of one of the reasons why we came out here, is because she knew people where we could move.
Oh.
And she had many
Connections.
acquaintances.
Yeah, friends and stuff.
So at 24, or she was 25, I was 4 years old. We moved out here
Okay.
to Texas.
All right. Now, do you have any siblings?
No siblings.
Really?
No siblings.
You're an only child?
Only child. It was
Now
just
that
me
is
and my
something
mom.
I just learned.
That was just me and my mom. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
No one
So
else.
your father did not come.
He's not in the picture.
He's not in the picture.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So she had you moved to Texas,
Mhm.
and you then she
She was-
stayed in Texas, or was she in Brazil as well?
She's currently living in Simi Valley.
Okay.
Yeah. But
All
that's
right.
how that happened.
So you were explaining though a little bit about how you would study in America, but you would still go back to Brazil.
Right. So
Who were you seeing in Brazil?
I
instead?
mostly stayed with my grandparents.
Okay, so they were
And-
still there.
Yeah, and my whole family still lives in Brazil.
Okay.
So everyone's still there. I have a pretty big family because on my mom's side it's more traditionally Italian
Okay.
heritage.
All right.
So it's a big family, big eccentric
Yeah.
family.
So it's a big and they all pretty much live
Yeah,
there.
so I would go down 3 months in the summer and 2 weeks at Christmas time every year. So every time I was in a break from school, I would be down in Brazil with my family, and usually traveling and going on vacations with them.
Right.
And being a part of that.
Very cool. Now I actually have been to Argentina, which again, I'm really bad at geography. Brazil
Right
is
next to each other.
right next to each other.
Yeah,
It's its own country.
We're
right?
actually rivals in soccer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Brazilians don't like Argentinians. Argentinians don't like Brazilians.
Okay.
It's a whole thing. And
It's
it's
a
all
real-
just over
it's
soccer.
real, it's real, yeah.
There's no actual beef.
Well,
it's
over
just
there,
soccer.
football is a big deal,
It's
right?
a big deal. People
Yeah.
get stabbed over it. So,
Yeah, I've seen the fights and the crowds and the stadiums come collapsing down
Yeah.
with thousands of people. It's crazy. I
Yeah.
mean, it makes us look like a bunch of sissies over here compared to that.
Yeah, especially in the way you guys talk about soccer.
Yeah.
A lot of people shit out soccer here.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
hilarious.
yeah.
It's don't say that in any other country in the world.
It's
because-
becoming major, though. I mean, it's really growing in America.
It's
Let's be
getting
honest.
better.
It's getting better. It's nowhere near it's still the number one sport in America,
Right.
or globally, excuse me, because
Yeah.
you guys, yeah. So let me ask you, because you have such a clear American accent, and I know that you spent majority of the time here, but in Brazil, being from that area, I mean, what was it like? Because it's such a pretty, unless there's parts that aren't really pretty. I mean, what's
Well,
it
because I'm
like
from
over there?
Sao Paulo, and Sao Paulo is like one of the largest cities in the world. I think the population is something like 19 million people in one spot.
Holy shit.
It's broken up into about 12 different districts, and I was born in the district of Murumbi, is what it's
Okay,
called, and
okay.
it's like a nicer area.
All right.
There's not a lot of middle class in Brazil.
Okay.
So it's either you're pretty rich and
Right.
wealthy and well off, or you're like pretty poor.
Okay.
And I think the biggest cultural differences for me was to live in America and be in the middle class and be pretty average, right? When
Sure.
I'm here with my mom and stuff. And then I'd go home and it's like my grandparents who worked hard for everything that they have, my aunts, my uncles, right? They all have very, very nice things and very nice livings and stuff. But when we'd go out on the street and drive around, there's people like begging for change and then the most raggediest clothes I'd ever seen. Or
Right.
like, you go by the favelas and you see this thing and it's like it just doesn't exist in America.
Right.
So it was that was the big cultural difference, is like seeing people be really poor. And like being from a country that's not considered third world, but seeing third world aspects of it
Sure.
was like really eye opening. Because Brazil has a great economy, but due to all the corruption,
Okay.
people remain extremely poor and
Okay.
unable to get out of those. They're uneducated. They can't go to school. They don't have clothes.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's extreme. It's like
They live in mud huts and collect rainwater for their bathing.
So it's
and
beyond homeless.
Yeah, it's insane.
because even the homeless here, let's be honest, you get taken care
Yeah,
of.
and then all the
to a
drug
degree.
dealers rule the favelas, so they like rule over the poor people pretty much. And then
Okay.
people get into drugs and gangs, and like that's why violence is so bad. And it's just
Okay.
because like they don't, it's like it's really really bad.
Right. It's extreme. It's from one extreme to the next. Like
exactly.
you said, there's no kind of in between.
Yeah, and I sometimes found myself sympathizing more with the people on the street than my own family.
Okay.
And it made it really hard for my family dynamic to understand that, because I come from a place where I'm not anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not made of money. Like,
Yeah,
so-
yeah. If you were in Texas, what part of Texas were you living?
We started in Waco area.
Okay.
Waco,
okay.
Texas.
Which is actually affordable.
Right, yeah, very.
But that was a small kind of town back then, and I mean it's growing
Now
a little
it's
bit, but
pretty
still,
big,
it's definitely was affordable back then. And you were still considered kind of middle class because your mom was a single mom, correct? What did she do for a living? Just curious.
My mom is an occupational therapist, and she
Okay.
does rehabilitation for the elderly.
Okay, and that's what she was doing in Texas.
Yeah, and she did home health, and that's why we moved so much. As when I was a kid, is like we moved 11 times in the years that I was in Texas.
Wow, you're like a military kid without being in the
without-
military.
yeah. My mom would just go where the work was.
Right,
and
right.
So like that's kind of another thing that ended up in kind of where I am now, is like I'm so used to adapting to like new environments and moving a bunch and
Sure.
So it's like I always had to make friends easily, and I had to be very outgoing, and
Wow.
it comes with the territory.
Yeah, no, because that's a great call, because I moved, I think, 6 or 7 times in my own town, because my mom was actually it wasn't jobs. It was just she would have a place and then not pay rent for a while and then get kicked out, because she was a single mom
Right.
for a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So I know how that was, right? Like, even though you're in the same town per se or city, you would go to, and you'd have to meet the neighborhood people. That's why I'm kind of outgoing, because it's like natural. You got to meet new friends, and I feel like that's something that's missing sometimes in today's society.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of like play dates and stuff. You don't just get to go around and be friends with different people, right? So I
Or
think
be
that's
forced to.
That's
like,
a cult.
You're
Yeah, that's
put into
what
a situation where you have to make
yeah,
friends.
and even if you fight with them, it's like you make up the next day. It's a
Yeah.
cultural change
Yes.
over the years, for sure. So that's interesting. So your mom, and so did you move in Texas quite a bit though, within Texas?
Yeah, it was like not like in the city. Like we'd moved to different towns and different.
Okay.
So my mom was like going to college. Then we like moved to
Okay.
She got like three different degrees
Wow.
while working from 6 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night to
Wow.
support me. Like she is the most hardworking.
And so you would just go to school. You would go to school and do your thing.
Yeah, she taught me how to get myself to the bus stop.
Right.
And, I'd get myself to the bus.
Yeah.
I made my own breakfast, the cereal in the morning. I'd come home after school. I knew how to make chicken nuggets, and I would just do my own
you're
thing.
a latchkey
and then
kid. I mean,
she was just like, yeah,
but
just,
not on
do
purpose.
your homework.
You had to
and-
do what you had to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she'd come home, and then she'd have to study, so we'd hang out for a minute, and then she'd go study for her college stuff, and that went on until I was about like 15.
Yeah,
so, like,
that's
most of my life.
But I'm assuming you had a good relationship with your mom.
Oh,
really?
Not really. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, because she wasn't really I was so alone as a kid, like no siblings, and
Sure.
my mom was working so much that by the time
And this
that
was before cell phones and all that, where you had to entertain yourself.
Yeah, like around 15 when she was done with school and like she had a good job, was getting good money, and she could be around more. Then she kind of wanted to come in and start telling me how to like live my life. And that's where we had problems because I've been on my own for I've already formed pretty much this
independent spirit.
Yeah, exactly. And then
Live
she
on my
wanted to
own.
come in and like
Change
micromanage me now, and I'm like, yo, you missed the ball on that.
I
Like,
love
it's been
that.
a while.
I love that you actually brought that up, because I don't think a lot of people realize that is an important part of someone who, and again, the phrase latchkey kid is not a bad phrase. It just means you had working parents, you had to come in, and open your own door after school, and pretty much had your own place, and you had to do homework and make your own food and all that stuff, especially someone that was working and then, like you said, studying, and hey honey, how are you? Okay, I gotta go study. Trying to make you have a better life, but at the same time missing the part that she
don't
needed
get me
to
wrong.
come. Yeah.
I love her to death.
That's what I mean.
Respect the hell out of her,
yeah. It's just like you guys weren't like interweaved.
Tight. We weren't like close,
It's more like friends. Like, hey, come and go in the night.
Yeah,
right?
we were like really good roommates.
It's just an age difference, right? Yeah. Now, does your mom still live here today in America?
Yeah, she's up in Simi Valley.
Okay.
And we over Thanksgiving last year, we kind of came to a terms that me and her have more of a brother and sister type of relationship than a mother and son kind of relationship, which is pretty interesting. But like,
now,
we're
what's
both
the age
aware.
gap?
20 years exactly.
Okay.
My mom was 20 when she had me. Yeah.
That's not extremely close. I mean, but it's not extremely far away. I mean, that's still young. Right?
Yeah,
so
well, that was
level
an
of respect.
option my grandfather gave her when I was born, because like my dad's not in the picture. So he goes, look, you have 3 options.
Oh.
1, you can call the dad up and you guys can figure it out. 2, you can take him as your own and raise him. Or 3, I'll take him under my name and he'll be your brother and you can go on living your life.
Really?
Yeah, it's like my grandfather.
She said,
when she was in the
brother.
hospital.
Yeah.
And then she was like, no, I want to take him and raise him. And that was kind of the issues. When I was 4, I asked my dad or my grandfather if I could call him dad. Okay. Because I noticed I didn't have one.
Sure.
And she got.
I just noticed.
Yeah, I looked around. I was like, all these people have a dude.
Dads.
Where's my dude?
Right, because at 4 you don't know that.
Yeah, so I went home and I was like, Grandpa, can you be my dude? He's like, I got you, man. And so, then my mom got pissed at that because of the option that she was given. She felt like she had lost. Like, I saw him more.
Yeah.
So she was
but you weren't trying to do that.
So
you
that was
just,
her, militant. Like, I'm going to a different continent.
Got it.
I'm going somewhere.
Oh, I see. That started at 4.
She was like, I'm going to go to
about.
America. I'm going to build a better life for him. I'm going to go raise my son.
Got it, yeah.
Get out of here, Dad.
How is their relationship?
Great. I mean, yeah.
So they're good.
I mean, no one okay, I don't know how to preface this. A lot of my stand-up is about this. No one in my family is, like, on great terms, but we all love each other.
Sure, of course.
Like, we all, like...
But you don't, like, hang up on each other.
They're all really rude, especially to me and my mom, and, like, they talk a lot of crap on our health and the way we live our lives, but we have completely separate lives.
Sure.
You know, it's hard to like, make them understand like, this is just how we do it.
I'll probably run a little clip, because I ran him live on Facebook, and you were talking about the conversation with was it your grandfather?
My grandma and my grandpa.
Yeah,
I have a joke about each of them. Yeah.
And he was like, I'll get into that. So, but with that, let's pause for another shot.
Yeah.
I mean, we drink whiskey pretty quick here.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
And as I've mentioned before, this show is always not about, like, we're not judging the whiskey. I mean, it's good, obviously. We're not getting into the amazing, like, aspects and the notes of whiskey.
Appreciating it, though.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a huge whiskey guy. But, we're just here to have some good shots, promote the whiskeys. If you like them, great. If you don't, we're just getting a good buzz.
Cool.
Okay?
Yeah.
So next we're going to get into our buddy and how we met. Rafi and I actually met at a Boone's Bourbon. Tyler Boone, who's a musician as well as a, bourbon maker, right?
Yeah.
Creator.
Absolutely.
And I think you had him on the show as well, right? Your podcast?
Yeah, he's been on my show a couple times.
Yeah. So he's obviously been on my show, and we're going to go up together. Bro.
That's right.
After you've seen
June
this,
5th.
we're going to be actually 3 days after that. We're going to be emceeing, and he's going to do a little comedy skit at Tyler's concert up in LA. So that'll be
the
freaking
Jam in
fun.
the Van.
Jam in the Van. That's
really
gonna be
fun.
sick. If you guys don't know about Jam in the Van, check it out. Go online. It's a super cool concert venue. It's actually been around for about, I think, 14 or 15 years. But during the pandemic, it became an actual kind of like standalone event versus traveling to the desert shows and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, something happened where like they just decommissioned the van, or like, we're gonna buy this house in like West Hollywood, and they've just been killing it, packing it out. Like
comedians,
they have the 2 different the 2 different
music
rooms,
and comedians.
music,
It's been crazy. It's gonna be super cool.
It's all the best of LA.
So he has not tasted much of Boone's other than a little thumbnail version of a shot glass. So remember, it's 117. Cheers, Tyler.
Oh, that guy doesn't mess around. Woo. It's fun.
As you can see,
man.
I've had Tyler Boone's bourbon for a while.
For a second, I was looking at the glass and I was like, why is he pouring so much more for him than me? And I was like, what is it you think I can't? But now, thank you, man.
It wasn't a knock. That's 117 proof. That's good stuff, but it's not meant to shoot that big of a shot. It's more like on the rocks or, you know.
When Tyler explains it, it's like it's really great for mixing it with something else. You
right,
know what I mean?
just to cut it a little bit.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put Coke on it just because it's real good bourbon.
Yeah.
But you definitely want to add some water typically or a cube or something like that.
A little bit of ice would have been like.
This is like my 4th bottle and I've drink it quite a bit. So that being said, I'd like to get into the next part, which is actually your high school years.
Right.
Okay. So you talked about studying in America, going back to Brazil for maybe a total of 4 months a year, right? Between summer and then the Christmas breaks, roughly 3-4 months. Your high school and all that, were you in multiple schools then too? Or were you were talking about your mom moving around in Texas?
So that was one of the longest stints I had was the 3 years of high school. And I think my mom wanted to keep us in one spot generally for that time period. I think she knew that, like, you know,
that's
not
important.
a time. It's a formative.
Yeah.
And it's the most formative time of my entire life. I was going to this weird. So it's like Huntington Beach High School has this.
So you're now in Huntington Beach.
I was at Huntington Beach.
Nice.
That's where I was living.
Wow.
That's where I went to high school.
You went from Texas to Huntington Beach.
Literally, yeah. I went from Waco, Texas to Huntington Beach. Like, so it's like Sao Paulo, Brazil to Waco,
to
Texas.
90210.
To you know what I mean? It's like this weird culture shock. But we made it out here in 2008. I was about to go into 8th grade, right?
Okay.
So I spent like my last year of middle school here, and then I started high school. And I wanted to always do music. At that time, I really wanted to pursue music. I enjoyed singing. Like, you know, I was like wanted to learn how to play guitar, and so there was this program at Huntington Beach High School called Academy for the Performing Arts.
Okay.
And I auditioned like American Idol style. It was like
really?
3 people in a room with a little camera like this, and they came in and were like, "All right, sing something." Like a cappella, just sing something.
Just sing something you like.
And I sang "Smoke on the Water," and I got into this program.
Wow.
And we were doing like we had a 600 seat auditorium, and we would do a Beatles or Rolling Stones album once or twice a year, and we would just pack it out for 3 nights. Then so I learned, it was called Commercial Recording Arts Department, is the department of the performing arts that I was in.
Okay.
So we did all pop music. So I had to learn like history of music, like from 1920s to contemporary. So, you know, like songwriting, recording, production, how to use GarageBand, and it was all like Apple accredited, and Boeing was sponsoring it somehow.
You're younger, yeah?
Yeah, I'm 27.
Okay, so I mean, at this time, you're you know, like technology's there, not to where it is right now, but way ahead of when, you know, the 80s and 90s. I went to school in the 80s, so interesting. So you were sponsored by somebody?
The music program that I was doing, it was not only like college credit level, but it was like my Jamie Knight, who was an incredible educator, and he was the music director. He would hit up Apple and be like, "Hey, we need a bunch of computers for our recording collab." And he just told them what they're doing, like a School of Rock kind of thing.
Yes,
And they loved it, so they sponsored it. So we had like all the new Apple Macintoshes and all that.
So you guys were like mixing and doing all that stuff?
Yeah, we had the MIDI keyboards, and they taught us how to play guitar and a little bit of theory and about music history. And we had to learn how to play the Beatles like verbatim to a click track. Like we had to learn how to fucking do it.
Yeah, and this is all the same time you're in school.
I'm 16.
High school. Okay.
I'm 16 years old.
So you're a sophomore?
15, 16, I was doing this, and that was the whole intention, but so I wanted to live that whole rock and roll lifestyle.
Of course, which I think your podcast right now is based on music, correct?
Yeah, I just have a love for music. I think music in a little bit saved my life.
Right.
You know?
That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome.
It kept me like when I was a kid and alone. Music was the thing that always kept me company when I was by myself. So it's like that's my saving grace.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Music is a big deal for a lot of people.
Yeah, loud music blaring in my room was like my entire like childhood. You know what I mean?
Right. So let me ask you this: you and I know it's a sensitive subject, but we want to get into it because in case someone's not or struggling with something. So you talked about like your later years of high school. There was some kind of when did you go to the bad route? Like, because it sounds like you were all good and then you went to like drugs.
Yeah, Huntington Beach is a predominantly wealthy area, and there was a lot of kids in this program that were really wealthy, and they were also like doing pills and whatnot, and I just kind of you just was hanging out, and it got offered to me, and I started doing opioid pills, and At this time, before the pharmaceutical, now it's impossible because the pharmaceutical agents, they took out the agents that would allow you to smoke these pills off tinfoil.
Okay.
But we started smoking the pills.
Right.
And then one day, it's like, it was being passed around to me, and it was a little bit darker than usual. Turned out it was heroin. No one told me. I smoked it anyway.
Darker in the room.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just ended up doing heroin, and I thought it was weird that I was like, this isn't as bad as everyone depicts it to be on television, or like it's not as scary
people
as
in the, like a tub in the alley or whatever.
So I like literally from the time I was 17 and a half until I turned 18, like I was doing about like half a gram of heroin every day.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It was sick, man.
How were you? I'm just curious. How were you affording that?
I wouldn't buy lunch. All my lunch money was going towards dope.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like allowance and stuff. Sorry, Mom. But
I'm sure she knows by now.
Yeah, she does. But yeah, so I decided that I was gonna go home for my 18th birthday back to Brazil, because when you turn 18 in Brazil, it's like your 21st. That's when you get to drink and vote and
totally
all
understand that. Yeah, because
so I decided to go home, and when I went home, I sobered up. I was there for 2 weeks, so like I didn't do any dope.
Yeah, you're obviously grandpa and grandma are gonna let you do stuff.
And that was my intention, and like that's why I feel that I didn't go to rehab. I didn't, I just knew that what I was doing wasn't good, and I needed to stop, but I couldn't. So I thought that the best thing for me to do was to go be around family and people who love me, who I don't get to see all the time, and just, I just kicked it.
So let me ask you, did you feel better?
Better.
Like when you went there, I mean, I feel like people like, because you were able to get away from it and be in an environment that's not going to support it, like you had no choice, you weren't going to get it anywhere.
There's no way, yeah.
Did you like go, hey, I feel so much better, like now I have energy, and like like.
And it was, the problem, man, it was always like loneliness. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff.
When you're on that dark moment, you're lonely.
All of it was because of like my deep-seated childhood loneliness, abandonment issue kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
Feeling like I like no one loved me kind of shit because no one was ever around.
Sure.
And I just felt like there was something wrong with me.
So you kind of like needed to be a part of something.
So with that, I could turn that off in my head instead of having to deal with it.
Right.
And it was an easy escape. But that's like it wasn't getting me anywhere. And instead, it was just I looked around and my friends looked dead. All my friends who did it and everything, like they looked sick. Like and I when I came home, we looked worlds apart.
You were like.
I was like, oh my god, like I just couldn't believe
that was
it.
me, just 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Right? Well, I'll say that and what's funny is every time we do an interview, some different interview pulls a part of me out, right? So even though I've been on my own show, someone hosted it. Every time, like for instance, what you're talking about, and my wife knows. I mean, when we went back when we were dating, there was friends doing hard drugs, like you said, crack.
Yeah.
Cocaine, and she's like never even seen that before, and I've seen it, but I was never into it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Because
I saw how they looked. Like I was like, I get it. You at least you got out, but I was like, whoa, this is really dark. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, gotta get. I was in the military at the time, so I wasn't gonna touch it either way. But all I'm saying is like, I get what you're saying. Like you see that. The other people after you're sober for a while, and you're like, wow, this was me just whatever weeks ago or months ago, and for me, I was like, I don't want to be that way.
Yeah.
And again, I pass no judgment on anybody that's going through that because it's a real thing. It's a real disease. It's a real thing. You can get captured. I'm just saying, like for you and I, the relatability of just realizing that except I didn't do it, but again, I wasn't in that same situation, so. I appreciate you sharing that. That's a big moment,
Yeah.
And you've been good ever since, right?
I had one relapse, and it's a whole other story, man. But I ended up like accidentally dating an escort, and she told me like into the relationship. I didn't know, but like
that makes sense. Like,
and I was like, hey man, like, I've done dark things too, and I told her about like my drug addiction, and she was like, oh, I used to have that too. Let's go get some. And like we ended up relapse. It was a whole
it was just a night.
But it was just one crazy week, and then it was over, And I was like, no. I remember I don't like this.
I remember
that's
why
right. I hate this. I hate the way I feel. But then so like my mom, at that time, like, the whole music thing ended in high school for me because I left high school as a junior.
Okay.
And
Whoa.
I dropped out. I've never.
What? You didn't bring that? That's awesome to know.
My mom gave me an ultimatum.
Okay.
She was like, you either go to college and get a good job and like get married,
do the
and have
whole
kids,
thing.
right?
Yeah.
Or you can get the hell out of my house.
Okay.
Because I want to be a performer.
Okay.
I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to travel. I don't want to have kids. I don't want to go to college. Like,
Right.
I just want to get good at art and like
Right.
try to make that.
Yeah,
happen.
that's a different side of your brain. You wanted to be the
And
artistic
she
side.
goes, no. And so I packed up my guitar in a duffel bag and I left.
Okay.
I just was like, I'm out. And yeah, I ended up, in between that year, I moved back to Texas because I had connections out there
You were
for
from Huntington
jobs.
Beach back to Texas.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Did you do the whole car ride thing? Or
No, I
fly?
flew.
Okay.
Yeah, I flew. And I ended up working on the ranch of the people that were the exchange student parents for my mom back in the day.
Nice.
And I worked on their ranch and stayed with them for a bit, and then I got some jobs, and then I accidentally got hooked on meth. It was
Okay.
crazy. I don't. Yeah, and I ended up doing speed out in Texas for a while, and then.
Okay. So you did have like another drug moment.
Yeah, I went through a second.
But different drugs.
Straight, like it was like not even 6 months apart. I went from stopping and then into like.
But
doing,
now meth and speed.
Yeah, I was working 3 jobs and trying to support myself
kinda
as an
needed that-
18-year-old.
yeah.
And out in Texas, that shit's just rampant. You
Right.
know, it's all over the place, and some dude showed it to me, and I felt like I slept for, years. Like I felt really
Okay.
rested, and I felt like I
Right.
could just keep going. And then I ended up, just in the same boat, just like, oh, I'm gonna get stuck doing this for the rest of my life. Like I need to stop. I
I
need to get
love
out.
your cognizance though. Like
And then
that you were
I
able
came back to
self-check.
California, and I literally lived on my buddy's couch for 2 years, and my band formed. I played in a band professionally for
That's
2
what
years.
I was gonna ask
Yeah,
next. Okay.
yeah, and that's how like music and art was like then my savior.
Right.
So it gave me something to
To change. Yeah.
like
now I can focus on this. Yeah.
Well, as I was wiping down tables at a Burger King in Hewitt, Texas,
Right.
and I'm living this life that I'm just miserable, I was just thinking like, what do I really want to do?
Right.
And I was just like, I've lost track of who I wanted to be.
Sure.
And I need to get back to that. And so I was like, I need to drop everything. I put 2 weeks notice in all my jobs, and I got another flight home.
3 jobs.
And I came back,
Yeah.
to California, and I literally couch surfed and just played music and hung out with some of my best friends, and I didn't have to I didn't have to do the rehab
Right,
thing. I didn't
right.
have to, but I had to realize what I really wanted, and like I was gonna end up either dead in jail or like doing that for the rest of my life, and I didn't want to do that.
That's awesome. No, that's super cool that you were able to realize that
Yeah.
a couple times because, and let's be honest, like I said, that's a disease that some people don't even take that other route.
Yeah.
And I actually joined the military, so to escape that, like you were talking about, I knew that in order for me to get away from weed, and even though that's not like back in this was 1990, 89, 89,
Yeah, it was
90.
not the same viewpoint.
It was not the same viewpoint,
Yeah, it's
but I just knew that would maybe take me down a road or
Mhm.
maybe not give me the career I wanted. But again, this was a whole different time, everybody. So for me, I was like on the couch doing that all the time, and I knew if I didn't get into something else,
Mhm.
so I joined the military. So kind of like you
Interesting.
came back
Yeah.
here and did the band thing, and to distract you, I'm like, I got to
So
get
now
away
it's
from
exterior
the whole.
stimulus.
Yeah, I just got to get away from the whole city and the area that I was in. And again, it was not to run away from the friends and all that. It was just new, like I was self-cognizant to say this is not the way I want to go.
Yeah.
Right. So that's super impressive.
The last thing I'll say, and I think it's just I want to make this into a joke someday, but I don't know how yet. is in the beginning they say like weed's like the gateway drug, and
Uh-huh.
it might have been, but now it's the gatekeeper for me.
Okay.
Like the weed and like having a little bit of like a couple beers
Sure.
or some whiskey or whatever, like that stuff keeps me at bay,
Out
so
of the
I
bad
never
stuff.
have to
Right,
I found where my edge is, and I never
Right.
go over it.
And that's important
It's like
because
it's a discipline. It's like a self-discipline of
yeah,
having to keep
and that
your
is
shit.
important because like you said, if you're like, hey, this stuff keeps me away from the other stuff.
Yeah.
I can control this
Mhm.
and not go crazy, but that way I don't touch the other stuff. Totally.
But I don't want to
makes
go on
sense.
the mood stabilizers
Yeah,
or
yeah,
the
yeah.
sleeping pills. This has always worked for
Just
me.
to chill,
And it's
yeah.
more natural.
Hey, to be
so
honest,
speak.
when I asked him, hey, what kind of whiskey do you have? He said, I have none.
Yeah.
So
I don't
obviously
keep
it's not something.
stored.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I drink when I'm out or I'm at doing comedy or whatever.
Yeah. Well, saying that, we're gonna try one more.
Let's do it.
Well, not one more. We're gonna do one more, and this one's Heaven's Door. So
Okay.
let's hope that doesn't
Perfect
open
topic.
Heaven's
Yeah.
Door right now. But this is actually one that I premiered on my wife's Wine Wednesday show. I had 5 ladies, You got to check that episode out. It's one of the most viewed episodes. I had 5 women and myself all doing 6 whiskeys.
Oh man.
And they're all used to wine, and it was an insane interview. I mean, because everyone was chiming. It was a great interview.
I gotta check that
So if you guys haven't seen it, check out the Wine Wednesday versus Whiskey Wednesday episode on the YouTube channel. It's super nice. This is smooth. You're gonna love this. Tell me, is that not super smooth though? Like you didn't have any kind of.
No.
Isn't that good?
Yeah.
It's
actually, kind of. It has like a. I don't know. It still kind of kicks though. You know what I mean?
It's not like super easy. Yeah. But you didn't like go. Oh my god.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't like a kick in the face.
But these are all in the 90s to none of these are weak. So you're definitely gonna have a good. I don't think you'll be relying on much of anything. So. The next aspect after the music, and so you were talking about professionally. Were you performing at like gigs and clubs,
festivals?
Okay, I mean you were playing, you were getting money, you were getting paid.
I got to play on the Queen Mary in Long Beach.
Oh yeah, we stayed the night there a couple times.
Yeah, that was probably one of the coolest things. Getting in to like load our gear onto the big loading dock that goes up into the boat.
Oh yeah.
But stuff like that.
Now, what kind of music were you playing? Just curious.
Psychedelic, kind of like classic rock influence.
Like Led Zeppelin-ish?
Yeah, Led Zeppelin, The Who, Jimi Hendrix, all that stuff.
Favorite,
we called the band Kaleidoscope because it was pretty much
Floyd,
a kaleidoscope of all our influences.
Okay.
Right? Like,
So you were writing your own stuff?
Yeah. We wrote all of our own tunes. The albums, I'll send you the album. You'd probably dig it.
That'd be freaking cool.
Yeah, we were just trying to create music that we would like to listen to, and that was our thing. And we felt like relics because our taste is very old, and we like the 50s, 60s kind of.
Yeah. You were
70s rock.
Traditional. Hey, let's play the normal shit.
I mean, you could people talk to me all the time about like what's happening in the rap game or whatever, and I'm just like, I have no idea what you're talking. I have no idea who you're talking about. I listen to like Elvis Presley.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
So we were just kind of making the music that we were hoping that people would still write today, like from back in the day kind of stuff.
So what happened to that whole thing?
Ego.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a traditional
they're
band
my brothers.
breakup.
Yeah, I love them to death, but it was like a really bad divorce.
Right.
And some really harsh words were said. It was the day we released our album too.
Oh, God.
The day we released our album, we were about to do something with it, make merch, or try to go do like residencies, do all that whole thing. And we broke up over literally like words being said to each other that were just too harsh.
Isn't that unreal?
And then we were just kind of like, screw you to each other, and then we didn't talk for maybe like a year or so, but like I hang out with them every opportunity I get.
Right.
Now, we're really good
friends.
friends.
Yeah, you kind of have to have that blow-up moment.
And just as far as business goes, and as far as the band, there was just there was a bunch of factors, that like led up to that, like shitty girlfriends that other band members couldn't stand, and all that kind of stuff.
I understand. Yeah,
it was the traditional band breakup.
That's what I mean. Like, it seemed like the story that everyone seems to go through, right? When they're like, "Oh, what happened?" And you're just like, "Oh, we were partying or rocking out," and someone's like, "You freaking suck at the bass," or you missed that riff.
Someone called someone a karaoke singer, and they got really upset.
And then it just carries on, and they just don't love that, right? So let's transition before we wrap up, because let me tell you something. When we were at Tyler's event, right? I mean, we're having a good time. You showed up later.
You guys look like you were having a blast.
You showed up later, right? So we had some food. We had some. I was meeting all kinds of people, and then like towards the end, Tyler's like, how do you know Tyler? Other than how did you get connected with him, real quick?
Tyler added me on Instagram.
Okay.
Out of nowhere, and this is what's really funny is I was like, dang, like, all right, like, verified dude,
Sure,
so I checked it out, and then I like checked out his music, because I was like, I love.
Oh, you probably love his shit.
Yeah, I looked it up and I was like,
yeah.
Oh, this guy's fucking rad.
Yeah.
And I was like, and
he's got like 5 albums. Yeah.
I just decided to lob him a message. I was like, hey man, just checked out your stuff. Like, big fan. Like, this is really cool, blues rock, and like, especially for contemporary. Would love to have you on my show, talk about. Music, period. Yeah. And he hit me back up, and he gave me his email, and then I got his email, and then he gave me his phone number, and then we just kind of talked, and then I got I looked up everything about the dude that I could find on the internet, watched your episode with him, and we had our interview, and he was like, man, like, how do you, he was like really impressed. He was like, let's keep in contact, let's do this again. And it was simply that, and what I found out is that he has some kind of thing that runs in it, just adds people, and so literally it was a bot Tyler's bot that added me on my Instagram. I was like, what, this guy like is checking me out? Like, this is right, dude. And then I hit him up, and he's just a nice guy.
Yeah, he is the nicest guy in the world. Yeah, he's incredible.
And we ended up like hooking up and connecting, and then that night he was like he was supposed to come to see my show that I had the Saturday before, but he went to the wrong brewery with the same name, and he missed my set, and then he fell on the bird scooter downtown to the gas lamp. And then so he invited me to the whiskey thing so we could actually just connect in real life.
Okay, and so that was the first time you met in
person as well? Yeah, exactly.
That was the first time I met him in person, but I've known him since October of 2020. Right. And that's interesting because the guy is...
he's your cousin, right?
Yeah, but he is, but he's a trip. Like, you don't know that. Like, in general, like, you just, like, connect, and then you're, like, family history and all that. But he is such a unique guy. Mm-hmm. But I was just impressed that you were able to just go off the mark with you and your buddy. What's his name?
Justin. Yeah, he's my other roommate here.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. What? That's my other roommate.
I love that cat, dude. He reminds me of the guy off Saturday Night Live,
Pete Davidson?
Yeah, no. Well, when you watch his stand-up, his voice is very Pete Davidson.
Huh. That's
my
interesting.
boys love Pete.
I can't wait to tell Justin that. That's going to be...
He loves Pete Davidson.
Yeah. Well, my boys are 19, and they just watch him all the time, like on YouTube and all his acts. And I was like, you've got to watch this guy. His voice, especially if you just close your eyes, even though he looks a little bit like from a distance, but if you close your eyes, he's got that same demeanor.
Yeah.
Like like that Pete Davidson thing,
And maybe that's to my great detriment, but like the reason why you were saying like being so quick on the mark then?
Yeah.
Dude, I'll go up in any room in front of anybody. Just hit me up. I do birthday parties. I'll go up and talk dick jokes anywhere. Like, just let me know.
Yeah. Well, what's
so
funny
when he pictured it, I was like, I'm down.
Well, when you did it, and I put you on live, I had a lot of views on that, but it was actually hilarious. Like, both of you guys had a whole different set. So let's get into, before we do the last shot of Pinhook, which is one of the premier whiskeys. I wanted to ask you, how did you end up going from band and then just start writing jokes?
This is my favorite story. So the band broke up. I needed a creative outlet. I'm a creative person. Right. Without it, I go crazy. It's just how I cope with my reality.
Yeah.
So at that time, I was working at a Domino's Pizza that was 40 miles away from my house.
I worked there 3 years, man. So shout out to Domino's.
I had to take the bus 3 hours both way. Mm-hmm. So I was on the bus
3 hours?
Yeah. So I was on the bus 6 hours a day.
Were you a pizza maker then? Not a delivery
pizza
guy?
maker. Yeah. So I was a CSR, customer service relations for. That's what they call them now. It's fucking stupid.
That sucked.
Yeah. No, suck a dick, dude.
No,
I'm making pizzas. You know what I mean? Like when they told me like, oh, you're gonna be one of our CSRs, and I was like, what does that mean? They're like customer service representative. I was like, you guys are a fucking joke.
I know. It's the day we live in, though.
I was riding the bus for 6 hours, and I'd always loved comedy. I started listening to comedy a lot. Jim Carrey. Ever since I saw Liar Liar when I was a kid.
Okay.
But I always decided I wanted to be the funny guy from that moment on. Even through playing music, that was kind of my shtick with the band. Is like I was always making them crack up. But yeah, so I was writing these jokes on the bus. Just observational stuff.
You had all this time.
I was just sitting there, man, just writing and like just thinking about and stories and things I would maybe want to talk about. Across the street from the Domino's was this bar that I like to hang out at. If I could manage a place to like crash for the night or whatever, or my buddies wanted to get fucked up, then I could crash there.
Now, how old were you at the time?
I'm like 20. I was 24.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 24.
So just 3 years ago.
Yeah, 23.
So 4 years.
Yeah, I've been doing this for like 4. So yeah, I was 23, about to turn 24, maybe something like that. But so I would go and hang out at this bar across the street, and I would eventually trade them pizza for free booze.
Okay.
So I'd show up with some free Zaz.
Yeah, because at the end, Domino's has a shit ton of extra loss.
Yeah, and then they would just let me drink for free at the bar and play pool. You know, awesome, so and then they offered one night they're like understaffed.
Open mic.
No, one night they were understaffed, so I decided, hey, like, let me jump in and do your dishes or whatever.
Right.
You know, like, we were all cool. And so I ended up
working there.
Yeah, I worked as the cook in the kitchen.
Okay.
And they had me come in on Tuesday night, and there was open mic night. And I had never seen an open mic for comedy. Never. And so the first open mic, I watched through the slit in the kitchen in the back of some shitty dive bar.
Yeah.
And I would start going, taking my breaks and going out and... watching the open mic.
Watching it,
and the host, he had just moved. He became my mentor, Dave Yates. He had just moved from Peoria, Illinois, to L.A. to try to make it in L.A. after doing comedy for 7 years. So he was almost like a.
And where were you, by the way? I'm sorry.
Huntington Beach still. This is in Huntington. So I was living in Brea, and traveling every day to Huntington.
So you're up there.
And so
You're like, I'm funnier than this guy.
No.
Not him. I mean, other people.
I mean, I will be honest. That's like new comic syndrome. Everyone thinks, oh, if they can do this, I can
crush it.
It's like 5 minutes. I could do 5 minutes. No.
And then you stand up and you're like,
yeah, I did a hot 2 minutes and 34 seconds my first time, and I was just like, oh, this is hard.
You're like, I'm running out of shit because I
never
remember.
This is difficult. I thought it was easy. But yeah, so he goes, hey man, like I've been seeing you watching the open mics. Have you ever wanted to do this? And I said, yeah. And he goes, promise me you'll come back next week and sign up.
Okay.
So I came back the next week, signed up, went up to 2 minutes and 34 seconds out of 5,
right.
You know, pussy. And I got off the stage and he literally said to me, that's the worst you'll ever be, just keep going.
Right.
And that was something that really stuck with me. And every night after the mic, he would sit and he would talk to me, and he goes, and this is something that he said to me, is like, I'm never going to tell you anything that someone hasn't told me before to help me, who was better than I was.
Yeah.
So he became my mentor, and he taught me everything. He took me to my first comedy club, which was the Rec Room in Huntington Beach, which is right up the street.
Okay.
And took me straight to the green room. I met Ken Garr and Hunter Hill, who opens up for Eliza. And Hunter owns the club, and he goes, I just introduced you to the club owner. Oh. So if you give a fuck about comedy, you'll be here every day hounding him for a job.
Yeah.
And
well,
so
dude, I've seen a couple shows. Comedy's insane. Like, you've got to.
Yeah.
Like, they tell you that. They're like, you motherfucking better be here. If you want to get in, what was that show? It was on HBO or something.
I'm Dying Up Here?
Yes.
Yeah, about the Comedy Store.
And it was just like, they're like, you're handing out flyers, man. You're like, you've got to bust ass. And I feel like, to me, and again, every time it cracks me up, that was my dream. I asked my mother, she was like, you should be a stand-up comedian. Huh. I always wanted to be it, but and to your honor, and I didn't have the balls. Huh. I wasn't afraid of talking in front of people. I always performed, but I just felt like I just never took that step. So for me to hear your story, I appreciate you so much, because I feel like you did it. You just followed your dream, and you're like, I don't even know.
I've been working in comedy clubs since I was 4 months into comedy, and I've learned everything from the inside of the walls of where the greats once stood.
And a lot of people talk about, like, it's not always about the money. I mean, you want to make a living, obviously. You know, the Kevin Harts of the world and all those people that are just ridiculous, right? They just get it. But they have even gone back to the grassroots and done the tours, you know? Like, Liza, we saw her at Jam in the Van. What's her last name?
Schlesinger.
Yeah. One of my favorite comedians. I mean, I was like, I can't believe she said Jam in the freaking Van. Mm-hmm. I mean, no offense, but that's a small venue for someone who's done Netflix specials. Yeah. And so for them to get back to the grassroots, I always feel like comedians love that shit, right? You could perform anywhere. Even if you did a big like stadium, you'd probably then next week and be like, I'll still rather be
I'm in a 120 club, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be like, whatever, bro. It's just that's what you guys get.
That's what I want to do.
And for me, I was watching
I'll do it anyway.
I was laughing no matter what. I was just loving it. I was like, you're funny as shit.
Thanks.
So tell me the story real quick, even though I'll probably have it on there. So tell me the story about, is your grandfather really dead?
No.
He was in the hospital or something.
No. I need to maybe accentuate the joke more, but... Me and my grandfather last time, and this is the truth. All of my jokes stem from a true fact.
Sure.
And I exaggerate some things for comedic effect, but so in this joke, the true part of it was last time that my grandfather came to the United States and like my grandparents came to visit. Yeah. We got into an argument, and he told me that I wasn't a real man.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
Which is fucking harsh. You know, I was like 22 at the time or whatever. Right. It was like 5 years ago, and so. I say that me and him, like, since then have had more of a strained relationship. Sure. And so I get this nightmare where my grandma calls me and she's like, hey, Grandpa's dying, he's in the hospital, he's asking for you. And so I fly down, in the dream, right? I fly down and it's, you know, my whole family's there and it's really sad and shit. And he looks at me and he's like, come over, Rafa. And I walk over and he looks at me and he's like, I'm sorry, man, for what I said. Yeah. And I'm petty, so I lean in and I whisper in his ear, like, you know?
This is all in the nightmare.
Yeah, and then in this dream, he looks me right in the eyes and he goes, I know, because only a real man could forgive, and he just dies. You know? And I wake up in a cold sweat every time, just like, I need to call that guy, you know? Like, I'm sorry, but I had the dream one time.
Yeah.
And I was
but it's great that you bring it up, because I had me piss at myself.
Yeah. It's fun it's fun to be able to make people laugh on like the potential of like my grandfather dying. You know,
Yeah,
it's like,
but he's probably solid with it.
But
right?
it's not. He's not actually dead. It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's a dream. That's
now,
what
how
makes
old
it
is
the
he anyway?
context.
Because he's probably
He's
like if he's Italian, he's probably like.
He's like 76, but he's as healthy as a horse.
He's probably like drinking wine. He just.
No, he doesn't drink. He drinks O'Doul's.
Oh wow.
He's been vegetarian for like 46 years. He's
Nice.
like the healthiest.
He's like the healthiest Italian.
He's gonna outlive me. Okay, like this guy's gonna live forever.
That's awesome, dude. Well, with that note, we're gonna drink Pinhook. Now, honestly, I've never had this, so we're both gonna get real reactions.
All right.
And since you're not going anywhere,
Oh, I'm not.
I'm gonna give you a fatty. And since my wife's driving, I'm gonna have a fatty. Now, Pinhook is one that I just got from Flavier, which I'm sure you've heard of. It's that whiskey club where you every 3 months you get a free
No,
ship.
I didn't
Yeah,
know.
it's a. But I've heard of Pinhook and everyone's talking about it, so I was like, I gotta get it. So
cheers, man.
let's try it.
Thank you.
Ooh, that's good shit. Ooh. Now see,
That's different.
it's actually solid,
It's good,
but I have to say he is definitely a whiskey.
it's
guy.
like smoky. It's really smoky. Ooh. It's like hickory smoke. You know? It's like what you need to make barbecue sauce.
So, to wrap up, I want to just give him a couple minutes to, what are you doing now? Obviously, you're a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you perform? If anyone's listening that's local, talk about where you perform, what your next step is, and what your aspirations are.
Yeah, I mean, I just moved down to San Diego last year.
Okay.
I took COVID off. Like I wanted to be respectful towards everyone, and now that things are easing up, I started going back out there again. I'm a new comic for 2 months in San Diego, and I have been beyond blessed to receive the embrace and the warmth that I have from the community here.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, I'm working at the Comedy Store
Okay.
in La Jolla.
La Jolla?
Yeah.
What?
So
Nice.
coming up, they're gonna be once June or whatever,
Yeah,
when the state of
whenever
California can
yeah.
release all. I will be performing every Wednesday at the Comedy Store on the Best of San Diego. You can catch me at Madhouse Comedy Club downtown.
Just went last week. That shit was hilarious.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Well, I missed your
Yeah.
show. Unfortunately, it was a little
but-
late. Sorry, but the set is pretty tight though.
that used to be the old Hard Rock.
Yeah,
and it's a
no,
historic building. I
Yeah.
mean, that place is beautiful.
We drove by and someone was like, "Wasn't that the Hard Rock?"
Yeah. Now it's the Madhouse Comedy Club. You can see me performing there all the time. I'm usually hosting shows. I'll be there. Probably not by the time this comes out, but I'm always doing stuff down there. You can actually, the best thing is follow me on Instagram. Beef Stroganoff is my handle. So like RAF instead of NOF at the end. And I'm always posting my show dates and stuff. But yeah,
Facebook, which is your name.
mostly the clubs, and I mean Madhouse has an open mic 7 nights a week.
Really?
Downtown.
Wow.
And they have the best draw. They have people that go out and bark and like let people know what's going on. So I mean, you're getting like a full room most nights
Nice.
in there, and that's the best place to go and work material. At least for me, it has been. My plans, really, honestly, are just to.
Keep doing what you're doing.
I just want to feature on the road.
Okay.
So my goal is to build a good 20-minute set and showcase it enough around town that I can find someone I can go on the road with
All right.
and maybe open up on the road for.
Well, I will tell you this right now. The guy's hilarious.
Thanks.
And I know comedy. I mean, you ask my kids, I'm obsessed. I
Uh-huh.
watch every comedy stand-up. I'll watch Netflix, and they're like, "What do you watch?" I'm like, "I watch comedy stand-up. I don't care who it is. I'm a huge comedy stand-up, regular comedy. That's all I do. I'm not a big horror guy, or I'll have to watch those for my wife. But every comedy, and I laugh at the stupid joke because they're real jokes. They're real funny. Like you said, all the Jim Carrey stuff. Like I'm busting out, losing a gut, just like I was with you and your friend. And it's like, holy God, these guys are just naturally funny, And that's what I appreciate about comedy. So check them out, especially the La Jolla Comedy Store. Like we go there all the time. Like we've seen some big acts there.
Just let me know.
Yeah,
Hit me up.
that'd be
I
freaking
will
amazing.
try to do my best to facilitate an easier.
I don't care about all that, man. Like I'll pay to get in to see you, bro. If you're there, I'll go, and I don't care who it is. So I appreciate that, though. But I honestly just want to support comedy. It's just one of the things that I wish I was good enough to do when I was younger. And at this point, I just enjoy everyone that does it. So for that, Rafa.
Dude, thank you so much.
What's your last name?
DeCamargo.
I just don't want to mess it up.
Yeah.
I knew it had something to do with
DeCamargo.
DeCamargo, and you go by on the stage. What do you go by?
I go by that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rafa DeCamargo on Facebook is because I made a new Facebook because I didn't want certain people to look me up. Don't tell anyone.
All right. Well, hey, I've enjoyed the whiskey. I've enjoyed the company. Check out him anywhere you can. Check out all his posts on Facebook, Instagram. Go to the store, La Jolla Comedy Store, Madhouse Comedy. Anybody that's local, check him out and just check out anything you can. So for that, thank you so much and have a good night. Peace.
Yeah.
All right, brother.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.